Wonderful. And so to introduce myself, my name is Tiffany Huang, and I'm the Educational Director here at Open Style Lab. And Open Style Lab is our nonprofit organization that is committed to making style accessible for people of all abilities through education, research, and community engagement. And every year we run a series of workshops and panel discussions surrounding topics that are important to our disability community. And this month, in observation of the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, we are hosting the What's Your D.E.S. Panel discussion coined by our very own host, Michelle, who we'll be introducing very soon. This event was planned in collaboration with NYU Langone's Initiatives for Women with Disabilities, also known as IWD. And it came together so beautifully through a gravitation of passion and understanding of just the critical nature of the intersections of disability, employment, and style. So we have Connie Lamb here with us today. Connie is the director of IWD, and she will give a brief introduction of what IWD does. Thank you, Connie.
Hi, thank you, Tiffany. I want to start by thanking the OSL for organizing this wonderful event and to invite us, the IWD, to collaborate. So again, my name is Connie Lamb. I'm the director at the IWD. The IWD is the only health and wellness center for girls and women with physical disabilities in the tri-state area. We have been around since 1997, and our mission is to empower women with disabilities to pursue a healthy lifestyle. Through our person-centered approach, we aim to create a supportive environment that fosters growth, independence, and confidence among our participants. So I'm so happy to see three amazing participants of the IWD to run the show this afternoon. And I have the honor to introducing our host for today, Michele Greene. Michele is a native New Yorker. She views herself as a woman of inspiration, power, and uniqueness. Michele is not only a participant in the IWD, she's also a mentor and instructor for many young adults at the center. Michele has a very unique power. She has the ability to move people, inspire, and motivate them to achieve their greatest potential. So I'm going to stop here and I'll hand it over to Michele.
Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for this amazing opportunity to present to you all today. I'm actually going to start off with everyone, wherever you are, please get yourselves comfortable. And if you are able to, close your eyes and please take a deep breath in. Hold it. Exhale slowly. One more deep breath in. Hold it. Exhale slowly. Open up your eyes. Lean your head to the left. Lean your head to the right. Turn your wrists. Wiggle your fingers and smile. We're getting started. Thank you all for joining today. The workshop is What's Your D.E.S? That's how I like to pronounce it. What's your D.E.S? What's your disability, employment, and style? And I'm happy to introduce our great speakers today, Jessica Huang, who is a passionate disability advocate and an undergraduate psychology student at St. Francis College in Brooklyn, New York. She is looking to pursue an MPH following graduation to influence health policy. Jessica has held many internships and is a member of the National Youth Advisory Board at Young Invincibles. Outside of school and work, Jessica enjoys exploring New York City and shopping. She participated in Open Style Lab's 2019 summer program and is excited to stay involved with the organization. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us today. Our next guest speaker is Jessica Tambor, who is an advocate for disability rights at various events in New York City. She received her master's degree in elementary education and special education from St. John's University. Jessica is a certified benefits advisor who works for an independent living center, helping people with disabilities create resumes, cover letters, apply for jobs, and understand their Social Security benefits. Welcome, Jessica. Jessica and Jessica. I'm going to call you JH and JT. Because what are the odds of having two speakers named Jessica? Welcome, ladies. How are you both feeling today?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm feeling great.
I'm feeling great too, and I'm ready.
Awesome. So let's get started. What's your D.E.S? What's your disability, employment, and style? And what does that mean to you? And we're going to do this one at a time. So let's start with our disability. JH, what's your disability?
So I was born with spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. For when I was younger, I mostly was a wheelchair user, but over the past couple of years, through a lot of physical therapy, I still use my wheelchair a lot, but I'm able to use my walker a lot more in community locations such as school. So but you, Jessica Tambor, what is your disability?
So thank you for having me. My disability is that I have a spinal cord injury from when I was born. I also use a crate and I sit forward, and I use a power wheelchair all the time. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. My disability, I actually acquired my disability at the age of 21 after having spinal cord surgery to partially remove a benign tumor from my lower spine. As a result, I had to learn how to walk with AFOs, two AFOs, and AFOs are ankle foot orthotic leg braces. And I use a cane. And then nearly 20 years later, I had to have the same surgery again. And now I ambulate with two loft strand forearm crutches and occasionally my wheelchair. So thank you both for sharing what your disabilities are. Now let's get into employment. JT, what's your employment?
So I am an employment specialist and benefits counselor at the Bronx Independent Living Center. I help people with disabilities apply for jobs with their resume, cover letter, job searching, and mock interview skills. And then if they get a job, I help explain what happened to their benefits, like Social Security benefits, while they are working, and how to report everything. And I also help people apply for Accessorize and some other services.
What's Accessorize?
Oh, Accessorize is New York City's paratransit for people with disabilities who can't take a bus or a train.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Jessica Huang.
So as Michelle mentioned, I am primarily in my senior year at St. Francis College studying psychology. But I am a very active member of the community, both on campus and off campus. In terms of employment, I have held many different internships and volunteer positions, but I can't speak at this workshop today without mentioning the instrumental role of IWD, Open Style Lab, and Michele Greene's very own pre-work readiness workshop when I was first starting college. So I got a taste of the IWD and Open Style Lab right before COVID, and then things went virtual. So one of the virtual programs that I joined was Michelle's very instrumental pre-work readiness workshop, where I developed skills such as identifying my own strengths, writing a resume, and knowing appropriate work etiquette. I then went on to apply for several remote internships, got my first in-person job at school, where I was a teaching assistant for freshmen, and presently in my senior year at St. Francis College. As mentioned earlier, I am a member of the National Youth Advisory Board at Young Invincibles, as well as most recently a legislative fellow at the Physicians for a National Health Program, which is a nonprofit.
Thank
Michele?
Thank you, Jessica.
Why don't you share a little bit about your employment?
Thank you. So for a few years, I have been a workshop facilitator, as you stated, with the Initiative for Women with Disabilities, IWD for short. And I am actually an award-winning disability fellow with Open Style Lab's 2024 Summer Fellowship Program, which was an amazing experience this past summer. It was just amazing. Where we got a chance to work on prototypes of footwear for all types of individuals with various disabilities, create and implement what our unique style is in terms of our different footwear. And so for style, for me, my style is actually casually elegant. And what that means is I can show up anywhere at any point in time, being casually elegant with pearls or not. I can be formal or business. It really depends on the event. It depends on the occasion, and it depends on the venue. For me, it's how I choose to show up. You know, like that's my style. If I'm being casual, I might have on a loose fitting shirt or pajama pants. And if I'm being formal, I'm about to step out in my blue and white gown, as long as it doesn't, hinder me with walking. And if I'm professional, I'll have on my pearls, I'll have on the proper attire, things of that nature. So that's what style means to me. JT, what does style mean to you?
For me, style is comfy, casual, comfy, but also appropriate for the workplace. So I don't want it to be too many graphic tees, or it's more of solid colors, but also comfortable and fits me appropriately. Jessica, huh?
For me, style is first and foremost a primary way of expressing myself, and like you lady just said, I'd like to second that my style is also mostly casual, and if I have to be formal, I will be, but we'll get into some of the challenges that come with that later.
That actually leads into the next conversation, Jessica. Thank you. And that is, do you find it difficult to get appropriate clothing or footwear that meets your needs for work or for school? So Jessica H., go ahead talking about that.
Well, I'll start with the school aspect. Right now, pretty much as an undergraduate, you can wear anything you want as long as it doesn't distract the learning environment. Mm-hmm. So no, as long as it's not too graphic or has anything offensive. But I will say that the one challenge that I face on the everyday, whether I'm at school or work, is footwear, because like Michele, I wear ankle foot orthotics, and it can be very difficult to find appropriate shoes. I am lucky to have most recently found shoes that are appropriate and fit my needs, but I'm always looking for more options. And then in terms of work, the COVID-19 pandemic has made most of my positions remotely, which means, again, I can pretty much dress however I want as long as it's appropriate. And I might spice it up a little for meetings. But I recently had, I guess, the most challenging time finding appropriate clothes for work, because, as I mentioned, I am the member of the National Youth Advisory Board at Young Invincibles. So we actually had a trip recently down to DC, and I remember receiving an email about 2 months ago that we had to dress business casual. Now, I've heard that word thrown around a lot, but I didn't really know what it meant for a young female like me, let alone fitting that criteria with my functional limitations and needs. So finding a top was actually pretty easy. Pants, a little difficult, but I made it work. Again, the greatest challenge was probably shoes, because I get around 365 days a year in sneakers. So I had to really think about, are my sneakers gonna be accepted, going to Congress? So at the end of the day, I ended up wearing sneakers because I'm not giving up my AFOs, because our devices are an extension of our body. So that was a really eye-opening challenge for me, because many of us, have devices that we can't get rid of. So Jessica, Tambor, I'll pass it to you.
So my difficulty is in wearing professional clothes. Is a lot of professional clothes have V-necks. So if you know me in person, you know that I sit forward all the time. And if I wear a V-neck, it's not very, it shows too much. So usually I need to wear a crew neck, like I am wearing now, and like Michelle has on. This way, it doesn't show too much. But it's very hard to find V-necks. I mean, V-necks that are appropriate for me, that would fit me and be okay for work. So I pretty much stick with more like cotton t-shirts that are appropriate, like for work, that are not too graphic or young. And then pants-wise, professionally, usually I just stick with black yoga pants, because a lot of the professional pants that you would buy at Express, they don't really fit me well. So, and also the zipper makes it really hard. So I don't wear those. Usually I just stick with yoga pants. And then shoes-wise, I can't wear any heels. So like Jessica said, I pretty much stick with sneakers as well. And I just make sure they're kind of appropriate for work.
Thank you. So I see that we have something in common, and that is one of the things we have in common is not being able to have, not having appropriate footwear for us to accommodate the different challenges that we have. And Jessica and I, Huang and I both wear AFOs. We both wear braces. And so for me, the challenge is finding footwear that is stylish as an adult. That there are a lot of cute little kitty shoes, but we're grown, and walking around with polka dot shoes or some type of cartoon character on my footwear, that's really not professional in any business, unless I'm working for a comic book company. Yeah, I'm not doing that. So that's the issue that I have with footwear, mainly with footwear, and then with clothes. Sometimes getting the appropriate fitting clothing with pants, so that they're not hindering with me walking and moving around and stuff. So thank you both for sharing getting us started with our disability, our employment, and our style, what it means to us, and what the challenges are with finding appropriate clothing and footwear. My next question is, have either of you ever faced any challenges with employment because of your disability? Jessica Tambor.
Okay, so when I was finding my first job, I was trying to find a summer job. No one would hire me for pay. Everyone would say, yes, I can volunteer, but they wouldn't pay me like everyone else. The only reason I got my first volunteer was because my aunt knew someone at that Y, and they let me volunteer. And then after that, I got my next volunteer at the Y closer to me, because my stepmom knew the head person. After I was able to get in there, then I was allowed to get paid like everyone else. And I stayed in that job doing after school and summer camp for 5 years. But to find a job that was more professional than summer camp counselor took me a very hard time. Connie knows my whole entire story from when I graduated school. I first had a teaching degree, and I wasn't able to find a teaching job because we live in New York City, and to get a teaching job, you have to be able to sub, first of all. And then to sub, the system calls you after 5 p.m. and you had to have a session before 5 p.m. Right. And this was before wheelchair camping. So that did not work out very well. Also, a lot of the schools weren't wheelchair accessible. So there was once where I went to a school and there were steps to get to the elevator. So all different schools have, nowadays there are more possibilities, but 10 years ago it was very, very harder. And I went on other interviews also besides teaching, but no one would really hire me. And then one summer I did computer teaching with IWD. That was good. And then Access VR, I was able to get into Access VR, and they were able to find me the job that I have now. And it took them a year to find it, but finally I found it.
Great, thank you. Jessica, Huang.
So I think beginning my employment journey in the era of COVID has mitigated a lot of challenges, but at the same time they still exist. And being so young and just not even at the beginning of my professional career, I would say the greatest challenge I would say for me has been finding something that fits my functional limitations, but that I'm still able to do. So like Jessica Tambor, I actually, when I was 6 years old, I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. And when I was a little older, my dad sat me down and basically we talked about how that might not be such a good idea because of lack of accessibility in schools, and also the fact that having a physical disability, people might question your ability to safely handle elementary school children. So after thinking a lot about what I wanted to do, like my career path ideas have changed many times, and they're still changing. Connie knows that. I, in the process of trying to find internships, I often have to be very selective about the organizations I choose to work for. I look in the job posting to see where is any statement about accepting diversity or an equal opportunity employment statement, anything to tell me that they might be more welcoming to me. I am lucky to have finally settled on field where hopefully I can work for a nonprofit or in a hospital where they might be a little bit more accepting to me. And I do want to talk about my first in-person experience. It was a little challenging because as a teacher's assistant, I fulfilled that dream of being teaching in the classroom. However, I was the only candidate at the time with a disability that my potential boss had ever, thought to hire in 5 years. So there was a lot of challenges to get through, but I eventually am glad that I had that experience because, in the advent of COVID, there are a lot of remote opportunities, but I always want at least one in-person experience to be on my resume to say that, she did it. And then hopefully as we have more conversations, people will become more understanding about welcoming people with disabilities into all types of workplaces.
Thank you. I can understand your challenges of being hired or potentially being hired to work someplace and then not feeling accepted. I had an issue many years ago. I was at a job interview for a company and interview went really, really well. And I just know I nailed the interview. I was dressed appropriately. I had on my blazer, my white blouse. I remember gray blazer, white blouse, gray skirt, pantyhose, flat shoes. Well, yeah, flat shoes. I was great. Was wearing one AFO, so I had my leg brace and a cane. Interview went really well. At the end, the HR representative said, "Can I make some suggestions to you?" And I said, "Sure. I'm open for it." And she asked, "Do you have to walk with that?" And I was like, "Walk with what?" "With my cane." No, she clearly stated, "Do you need that stick to walk with?" And I said, "You mean my cane?" Yes, I do. She was like, "Okay, well, then can you cover that up?" And I tilted my head to the side and said, cover up what? That thing on your leg. You mean my brace? She's like, yes. And I was completely appalled. But I kept it together and it's like, what do you mean by cover up? She's like, well, if you move forward with interviewing, some companies may not want to hire you because they may see you as a liability for medical reasons. Like, you're going to have to call out a number of times for medical appointments. So, it might be a good thing for you to just cover that up. And all I could do was sit there and smile and say, thank you. I'll take that into consideration. Meanwhile, in my head, there was a whole different type of conversation going on. But I shook her hand and I said thank you and went on about my business. And that was the first time that I had ever felt discriminated against because of a disability, because of the devices that I have. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't talk about it. I definitely did not go home and tell my mother because my mom, the type my mom was of that, she would have showed up to the person. And when I finally did tell my mother a few years later, she still said, where is she? I'm going to find her. No, Ma, it's okay. And so with that, I was actually offered a follow-up interview and I declined it. And I declined it because this is the HR representative. And that person is the face of the organization. That's the first person that you see. So if she felt comfortable enough to say those things to me, what kind of employees did they have? And I was not interested in working for a company to find out that the employees would treat me negatively. No, no, I was not interested in having that. So, that's my experience and me declining a possible job offer because of my disability, because of, I don't even know what the accessibility would have been like, but it was a definite no for me. JT, what about you?
For like interviews,
Have you declined a job due to lack of accessibility, which I think is something you had already mentioned?
well, when I was younger and I was trying to find summer jobs, there was one place that said they really liked my resume and they wanted me to come in. And I said, okay, are you wheelchair accessible? And he was like, we're down the steps. And I was like, okay, is there an elevator? And she's like, no, you have to walk down the stairs. I said, no, I can't do that. I have a wheelchair. He's like, oh, so you can just leave the wheelchair. And I was like, no, this isn't going to work. And he's like, oh, well, if anything changes, just let me know. And that was the end of that.
I'm sorry, if anything changes, as if you're supposed to come out of the wheelchair and be better prior to starting the job? Like,
yeah,
that thing? Okay, yeah, no.
That did not happen.
No.
And a lot of times my coworker says like there's this factor called like the factor, where they look at your resume, they see that your resume is really good, they like you, they call you in, and then they see that you have a disability, and they're like, oh, but they still have to give you the interview. They can't not interview you. But,
yeah. That sounds to me like what you're describing leads into the next conversation, and that is, what can people do to make places more accessible, like at school, at work? So what you were saying, Jessica, Tambor, was that for a place to have elevator access with no stairs. If you're a wheelchair user, you can't tell somebody in a wheelchair user, well, just bump your chair down the stairs to get to the elevator. Really? Like, does that make sense? Or we have an escalator. I promise you, I don't want to see anybody in a wheelchair on an escalator trying to get to the destination. We're not doing that. That's a whole movie. We're not going to do that. So that's where you were saying, Jessica, what can people do to make things accessible for you at school?
So in terms of school, I've actually done a lot of work related to changing accessibility. And I will first and foremost say that as a student, a lot of administration has this, even though I have a physical disability and a lot of the challenges are visible, and yes, getting into the building is important. Doing well in school in terms of my grades is important, but they have to see me as more than my disability and more than my transcript. So throughout high school and college, I have been part of very academically demanding curriculums, but I've also done very well. And a lot of times, because I've done very well on paper, there's a lot of things that administration might play a blind eye to, not on purpose, but simply because they don't know. And that is, for example, things like fire safety and comfort in the classroom. If I don't feel safe or comfortable, how am I supposed to do well academically? And a lot of times they just think that, they might think it's easier to help a student that needs tutoring. But with things like safety and comfort in the classroom, that might require an additional conversation. I'm thankful to go to school where I'm able to openly have a lot of those and create meaningful change. In terms of making the workplace more accessible, I will again refer to my in-person experience at school. One of the reasons why I chose to start pursue my in-person experience at school is because I figured everybody knows me. They will, accept me how I come and be a little bit more accommodating. But still, I had to pioneer a lot of different ways of making the job more accessible. So typically, I would have taught two separate classes of about 20 students alone. But I made a point to my boss that it might be a good idea for me to have a co-teacher in the room just to assist with physical tasks so that, it will make it easier for the students and for me. So I would say that it all starts with a conversation because I successfully taught the whole semester as long as I had my co-teacher in the room, and we ended up bonding very well. So starts with a conversation.
Thank you. And that's exactly how I feel. Ask me direct questions, asking exactly what it is I need, and then listening to the answers is always very helpful, as well as understanding that not all disabled people require the same accessible adjustments. What works for you may not necessarily work for me, and vice versa. And so having that conversation, being open about it, being clear as to exactly what it is that we need will be very helpful in the workplace and in school. So as we start to wind down, and I know we touched on this earlier on, are there any hacks or workwear go-tos that you would like to contribute to this discussion? I know we talked about our V-necks, our loose-fitting yoga pants. Are there anything else that you would like to add in as your workwear or school go-to hacks? Jessica Hung?
So first of all, I'm a person that once I find a brand of anything, it could be clothes, it could be shoes, why not just stick with it? But other than just sticking with my comfy favorites, I recommend, especially for a lot of people that have difficulty with manual dexterity, finding things like shirts with magnets or uh even zipper closures that are a little easier with like snaps, because I know that for me personally I can pull down a zipper, but the hardest part might be getting the zipper to fit in order to pull it up. And then in terms of pants, I always like to find ones that are looser and easier to pull down against my braces. How about you, Jessica T?
I would like to find a more professional shirt that fit me good, like more crew neck, and no turtleneck because I have a twig, so I can't do a turtleneck either. So it has to be more like a crew neck, and I would like it more professional, not always just like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt.
Okay, thank you. For me, flexible clothing that isn't a hazard, like with walking with my crutches. So I would like a pullover knee length dress that I could wear. It could be professional, it could be casual, so that if I'm in my wheelchair, I have on the appropriate length so that not too much of my legs or anything of that is being exposed, and I don't have a lot of material that would gather in my wheels, as well as having free flowing pants. Try saying that quickly, right? Wide leg pants, so that when I'm walking, again, my crutches I don't trip on them. The legs doesn't get caught up in the wheelchair, and it's still professional. It can be casual, it's formal, whatever it is, but it still looks good and falls into the style that I have created for myself. So we had such a great conversation, ladies, and I absolutely want to thank you. So the last thing I want to ask is, as a wrap up, if you would both please share what the past, present, and future of your disability employment and style looks like for you. And I'm going to pass it to Jessica Tambor, and then do it that way.
So, like, the future of my style, like I just said, I would like maybe more, and also pants wise, more professional pants that aren't just yoga pants. And the shoes, like black shoes that are professional but no heels. I'm very lucky that where I work is mostly casual unless we're going out in the field. So most days I don't have to worry about really being dressing totally all out professional. But there are some days that I do. So I just wish in the future there'll be more of a style priority.
Right, thank you.
Jessica, huh?
For me, the areas of disability, employment, and style blend together a lot. And in my past, a big part of my work in all of those areas is advocacy, is having that open conversation. And that is something I would like for it to continue in the future. In terms of employment, I would like to see more workplaces being open and accommodating to people with disabilities and being willing to learn. In terms of style, again, similar, I think that we're seeing a lot more awareness in terms of adaptive clothing, but also expanding that awareness to the adult and older adult population, because some of the things that are out there now for kids, like I wish that there was this much awareness when I was younger, but now I am becoming a young adult that needs to wear professional clothing to work, professional clothing to events. So I think we're starting to see it, but the conversation needs to get wider and integrate people of all ages.
Got it. Thank you. So for me, what does the past, present, and future look like? So for my past, I actually did not accept or acknowledge that I was disabled for quite some time. In fact, I was actually ashamed and embarrassed. I often told people to treat me like I don't have a disability because I didn't want to be disrespected, which is what I saw happening to disabled people. Moving forward in the present day, after living about more than 2 decades, in denial, I have accepted, acknowledged, and embraced being a woman with a disability. So I'm no longer ashamed. I want to be treated with respect. I earn the respect just like everyone else. And in terms of the future, I will continually to openly discuss my disability in terms of employment. Similar to what you said, Jessica, I am open for conversations to be inclusive of all types of disabilities, whether it's seen or unseen. That's another conversation to have. And I want to be that person that I needed 30 years ago for young women with disabilities. I didn't have that person to speak to. I didn't have that person to look up to say that, hey, you have a disability and you can survive. You can move forward. You can go to school. You can work. You can live independently of other people. I didn't have that, but I am that woman now. And so I get to share my life story, my experiences with everyone else. And lastly, in my casually elegant style, through motivation and inspiration, I will move people to experience their limitless possibilities. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you who participated today, who showed up for us. My speakers, thank you both so much. Connie, Tiffany, Yasmin, thank you for this amazing opportunity. And I now turn it over to Tiffany. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle, Jessica, and Jessica. Yeah, it's been so incredible to just hear about each of your experiences and insights. We'll now open up the floor for some questions for 5 minutes. I have some here in the chat. The first question is, what would you find most helpful to find items when shopping? A recommendation from a peer, advice from a specialist stylist, more product information online? Anyone can, Michelle, Jessica, you guys can take on the question.
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Are they looking for footwear? Are they looking for clothing?
Yeah, it's, I think they're asking if, and please feel free to unmute and explain as well, but I think they're asking, what would you find most helpful to find items when shopping? So would it be like recommendations or advice or, yeah.
Thank you. And now I understand. So what I find helpful is actually recommendations, word of mouth, specifically coming from people who wear orthotics. You know, what have been their experience with shopping for footwear, and then actually where do they go? Is it someplace online? Is it an in-person store? Those things I find that to be very helpful with footwear.
That's great. Yeah, someone who has shared lived experience, right? Great. And Jessica, do you either of you want to add on?
I pretty much agree with that. Sometimes when I go to the store and they might ask me or my parents what exactly I'm looking for, and we tell them we're looking for shoes, but we might say, but she wears AFOs. The most they'll do is take us to the wider width section, but not really know what to do after that. So the best thing to do is go to someone with a lived experience who actually found a product that might work.
Great, thank you. And JT, did you want to add anything?
I agree with what they said. Like, just going to the stores. Whenever I go shoe shopping, it's the whole entire process. Like, if anyone's with me, I tell them this is gonna be a thing, so just be ready, because it could take like an hour to figure out what. I don't wear braces anymore, but just to find shoes that are gonna fit me.
Yeah, it does. I think that's something that I hear very often, is that it takes a long time to be looking for the perfect thing if you're able to find it. So allotting plenty of time. Great. For the next question, maybe we can have one of you answer for interest of time. How do you overcome feelings of doubt about getting a job with a disability? I've applied to several jobs since graduating with my associate's degree in social services and never get called back. I'm also upfront about my disability and limitations, so I don't if that's a turnoff for the employer. So the question is, how do you overcome feelings of doubt about getting a job with a disability?
I would say just keep on trying. You know that you have your skills and you know what you can do, and you know that you're smart. So you just have to find the person that's gonna give you the chance to do it, and just keep on applying and just keep trying everywhere until you get the person that's gonna hire you.
Thank you, Jessica. Actually, does anyone want to add? I feel like this is a expandable question.
Well, to go into tie in exactly with what Jessica said, is to keep trying. It's unfortunate that people will see our devices as a hazard or as a block, as opposed to embracing them. Our devices are a part of us, and so I often want to ask somebody who questions, why do I have my wheelchair? Why do you walk with two legs? How does that work for you? You're an able-bodied person allegedly. So how is it for you to get up and run and not for the next person? So I would like for people to kind of like look past our devices and see us as the human beings that we are capable of doing anything and everything, pretty much like most able-bodied can do. The difference is we have devices to assist us.
Great. Thank you. And then we have one question from Ebony, and then I'll pass it to Jasmine. You spoke about accessoride, and my question is, do they consider those with unseen disabilities? As someone with an autoimmune disease with a suppressed immune system, would I even be considered for the service?
Okay. So accessorize, you have to be able to prove to accessorize that you're not going to be able to take the bus of the train. So if you're not able to take the bus of the train, your doctors need to write a really convincing letter to your accessorize on why you're not going to be able to do it. Because you can appeal. So like you can get your first denial and then you can put it up for appeal. And when you appeal, you can have your doctors write everything. And you can just try. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Great. Thank you, JT. And Jasmine, you see that you have your hand raised.
Yes. So I was the one that asked the question. Thank you both ladies for answering my question. And I just want to add to that real quick. So I'm a little confused, like when it comes to employment. Some people are like, no, you shouldn't disclose your disability, and some people are like, yes, you should disclose. So what do you guys suggest? Like, what should I be upfront from the beginning about my disability, or should I wait until I kind of go through the hiring process? Like, how do I handle that?
For me, one day I was having a conversation with a mentor of mine, and they essentially said, well, it's visible so that they're gonna find out at some point anyway. And like if you are applying to a workplace where you might have feelings that you have to hide it, or you think it's going to hinder your ability to get the job, then you might want to question even applying, because it's unfortunate that we have to be selective. But at the end of the day, we want to work in places that accept our disabilities rather than see them as a challenge.
Great. Thank you all so much. So for the interest of time, we will close our Q&A session at this time, but thank you so much for all of your questions. And if you have any further questions, please do email us, and we'll also get in touch with everyone through email and send you any links that came up. And yeah, we'll send you a separate email as well. So yes, thank you all so much for sharing your insights once again.
One last
Oh yes, Michelle.
One last thing before we could say goodbye. If everyone could just please join me and just take one deep breath in, hold it, exhale slowly, lean your head to the right, lean your head to the left, turn your wrists, wiggle your fingers, smile, and have an amazing weekend.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I needed that. But yes, please hold before you sign off. Now that I have my breath in and I got my smile on, I think we're ready to share the last ending announcements. But yes, again, Michelle, thank you so much for organizing and hosting this discussion. Even the breathing exercises, everything helped so much as well. So thank you. And yes, thank you everyone for listening in and joining us today. We also have many other discussions and workshops throughout the year and in the future. So please stay tuned and stay connected with us via our newsletter and also our social media page. Or yes, and our next workshop is coming up on November 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern time, called Ballet Beyond Sight, where we will explore the world of inclusive ballet. And this is really open, like this conversation was, for all audiences of various interests and industries, and it'll be a very thought-provoking discussion. So please join us. To register, you can scan the QR code or go to bit.ly/OSL ballet. And also, in the chat, I will also be sending in the feedback form for our discussion today. And it will be really incredibly helpful for us to hear back from all of you. So please help us by submitting the short 3-minute form. I'll be sending this into the chat and give everyone a chance to open it before we say goodbye. But otherwise, yes.
I apologize. Is that form also able to be sent to the email so people who registered, who participated, who may have left already?
Yes, absolutely. We'll include all the links.
Awesome.
But thank you so much. That's the end of our time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for joining.